Hi and welcome on another of our virtual Yellowstone tours. Today we're doing the section of road between Norris Geyser Basin and Madison Junction. If we were to turn right here, we would make our way into Norris Geyser Basin, and it's two basins, Porcelain Basin and Back Basin, and we will be doing that on another one of our Yellowstone virtual tours. You can see the route map at yellowstonetours.net/map. That's yellowstonetours.net/map. This road more or less follows the Gibbon River, just about all the way from Norris Geyser Basin to Madison Junction. There are two main thermal areas along this stretch of road. To our right is Norris Geyser Basin. Norris Geyser Basin consists of two basins, Porcelain Basin and Back Basin, and we are running next to Back Basin at the moment. Back Basin is a wonderful basin to stroll around. It's also home to the world's currently highest active geyser called Steamboat Geyser. The trail to Steamboat from Norris is about a quarter of a mile in each direction, so half a mile round trip. And although you're very unlikely to see Steamboat erupt, it's still worth taking the stroll there because Steamboat, as the name says, is always giving off steam. And you never know, you may be lucky. Up until the last few years, Steamboat's eruption patterns used to be anywhere from about every 3 days to approximately every 70 years. But it has started erupting more frequently. Last year, 2019, it went off more times than anyone can remember. And this year as well, it has erupted a few times. If you do go and visit Norris Geyser Basin, just as you would have to do in any of the geyser basins, remember to stay on the boardwalk. The ground around the boardwalk system is potentially very, very thin. In fact, a couple of years ago we had a brother and sister who were strolling around Back Basin, decided to get off the boardwalk system. We're a few hundred yards away from the boardwalk system, and the brother disappeared into the ground below. This over here is what's called Elk Park. A somewhat euphemistic name, but occasionally we'll see big bull elk here, not all that often though. Anyway, so the brother dropped down into a hot spring below. There was nothing that the sister could do. He of course died, and rangers were not able to recover his body. It was eaten up by the acid in the hot spring, so do be careful. We're leaving Norris Geyser Basin behind us, and I mentioned that there were two big thermal areas here. The other one is the Gibbon Geyser Basin. It's not as well known, it's not as prominent, but it is actually bigger than Norris, and probably the best known feature at Gibbon Geyser Basin is artists' paint pots. Now, you would have probably come across fountain paint pots at the lower Geyser Basin on Yellowstone's lower loop. This is another area where you'll find paint pots, but it's not as well known and perhaps not as well visited as fountain paint pots is. You probably can't see it through the trees, but the Gibbon River is now running to our right alongside the road. The Gibbon River, along with Gibbon Falls, which we will come to, was named after Colonel John Gibbons. He was a member of the US Army, and he came out to this area with the Hayden Geological Survey, which is one of the first geological surveys to visit Yellowstone back in 1872. I've always liked this picnic spot coming up here the Gibbon Meadows picnic spot. It's right next to the Gibbon River, so you can hear the waterfall, you can hear the water running along in the river. In addition, it is one of the picnic spots where you do have restrooms, which is always really useful. Coming up ahead of us in a moment is going to be the start of Gibbon Meadows, which is another area where we occasionally see bull elk. And you can see the thermal features off in the distance. I've mentioned this many times in these videos, but anywhere where you see an area that is pale is an indication of the sinter in the area. So the sinter is brought up by the geysers or the other thermal features with the water that comes up in the geyser, and it's deposited on the ground. So anytime you see a paler area, a white area, you know that there is a thermal area there, or there used to be. And off to our left, we've just missed the road to it, but up over there is where is where Artist Paint Pots is. I don't know if you can see, there's a buffalo grazing in the meadows. We often see them over here. Quite a few people out fishing at the moment as well. Now, on top of that hill is, in my opinion, one of the most unique, if not the most unique, geyser basin in the entire park. It's called the Monument Geyser Basin. It's as you might guess, looking at that, it's a very steep hike up. But the thermal features that you see up top there, and here's the Gibbon River again, the thermal features that you see up top are really amazing. They're quite unlike any of the other geysers or thermal features that you'll see in Yellowstone. So if you do have time and you're used to the altitude, because we are high up here, we're probably, I would guess, 7,600 feet up at this point, and you are climbing up that hill, so you will get out of breath. But if you are up to it, it really is a fascinating area. Once you're at the top, you can see the sign there that says Monument Trailhead, and here's the little parking lot. I do suggest that you take hiking poles with you if you do that trail, and as always, carry bear spray, even though the chances of seeing bear up on that really steep hill are not going to be that great. Here are some photos I shot last time I was at the Monument Geyser Basin. It's a steep climb, but the views at the top are well worth it. Gibbon River now on the other side. That's Beryl Hot Spring. Beryl Hot Spring was named by one of the US geological surveys that came out here. It was the Hague Party in 1883, because it reminded one of the people in the party of the mineral beryl, and of the semi-precious stone, gemstone beryl, and its blue-green color. Notice that the Gibbon River crisscrosses from one side to the other as you make your way in a general southerly direction. And just look how beautiful that area is. And in fact, this whole stretch of road is. as it runs next to the Gibbon River. This next little stretch of road here is new, relatively new. It was put in, I would guess, 5 or 6 years ago. The roads tend to blend into each other. The road used to go off there, and the Park Service has really done a wonderful job of covering up and naturally revegetating the land, so you have no idea that there used to be a road in that area at all. During the course of these videos, I've mentioned the Caldera occasionally. The Caldera is the huge hole in the ground that was left here last time the Yellowstone supervolcano erupted, and once again, depending on which books you read and who you believe, it occurred in between about 625,000 years ago and 640,000 years ago. You can see the Caldera Rim picnic spot. We are right on the edge of the Caldera, and if you take a look at the map that we have on one of our tour sites, yellowstonetours.net/map, that's yellowstonetours.net/map, and have a look at the lower loop of the park, you'll see there's a soft purple shaded area that more or less follows the lower loop of the park, and that shows you where the Caldera is, or perhaps used to be, because the Caldera has, of course, over the hundreds of thousands of years been filled in naturally. Coming up ahead of us is where the old road used to join this section of road. Once again, it has really been covered up wonderfully. And as the Gibbon River goes under the road once again, we're shortly going to be coming to Gibbon Falls. There's a relatively new parking lot here. You used to be able to stop alongside the road, but now you'll need to pull into that parking lot. And for the most part, there generally isn't too much of a problem finding parking, and you'll be able to have a wonderful view of the falls, which is just behind this retaining wall over here. those cliffs in the background, they're part of what is known as tuff cliffs. Tuff is spelled T-U-F-F. At one stage, hundreds of thousands of years ago, there were huge plumes, huge clouds of volcanic ash in this area. And the rock fragments in the volcanic ash were so hot. There's a good example straight ahead of us. The rock fragments in the in the clouds were so hot that the rocks actually melted, and they formed this really hard rock face. And over the years, it's been obviously molded by the forces of nature, and now we give it the name Tuff Cliff. Cliff jutting out ahead of us is also pretty close to the edge of the Caldera and was formed by the buildup of lava, which subsequently solidified. Here is Terrace Spring. You used to be able to access it from the road before they put these barricades up. We're approaching Madison Junction. If we were to turn right here, we would land up in 14 miles in the town of West Yellowstone. If we were to carry on straight, in 16 miles we would come to the Upper Geyser Basin, which is where Old Faithful is. Thank you for joining me on another one of our virtual Yellowstone tour series. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you in Yellowstone. If you're looking for lodging in the Yellowstone area, please check out our motel at oneyellowstone.com, and please use the number 1 rather than spelling it out. If you're trying to find a Yellowstone tour, please also take a look at oneyellowstone.com. We operate more Yellowstone tours than anyone in the world, starting in Salt Lake City, West Yellowstone, Las Vegas, LA, San Francisco, Seattle, and about 15 other cities.